The shocking story unfolding in Kandi Burruss's household has left fans speechless. For years, many believed that Kandi and Todd had mastered the art of blending families, creating harmony in a situation that is often filled with chaos. But now, beneath the smiles, behind the luxury homes and successful businesses, a painful truth has surfaced. Todd Tucker, Kandi's husband, has privately admitted something that stunned even those closest to him. He blames his stepdaughter Riley for the stress and pressure that have been weighing down on Kandi's health. This revelation wasn't just another family argument. It wasn't just another disagreement in a household that has often seen ups and downs. No, this was deeper. Todd's words carried the weight of years of unresolved conflict, years of watching his wife crumble under the pressure of trying to hold everyone together. The finger-pointing didn't come from nowhere. It came from a man who says he's been watching his wife sacrifice herself, her mental health, and even her physical well-being, all to keep peace between a daughter and a stepfather who have never been able to see eye to eye. But how did things get here? How did one of the strongest women in reality television end up in the middle of such a painful battle between her husband and her only daughter? To understand that, we need to go back to where this all began, back to where the cracks first started to show. Kandi Burruss has always been known as a fighter. From her early days as part of the group Escape to becoming one of the most respected songwriters and businesswomen in the industry, she has built her empire on resilience. But if there's one role she has always cherished above all others, it's being a mother. Her daughter Riley, from a previous relationship, has been at the center of her world since day one. Kandi made it clear from the very beginning that everything she worked for, every late night, every business deal, every song written, was about giving Riley the best possible life. When Todd Tucker came into the picture, Kandi believed she had finally found someone who could share not only her life but also the responsibility of raising her daughter. Todd seemed supportive, caring, and ready to step up. He knew Riley was Kandi's heart, and in the beginning, he promised to respect that bond. But promises in blended families are easier said than kept. Riley, who had already experienced the absence of her biological father, wasn't quick to embrace Todd. To her, Todd wasn't just another adult, he was a man suddenly sharing her mother's attention, her home, and her life. That kind of adjustment doesn't happen overnight. And while Kandi hoped time would soften the walls Riley had built, those walls only grew taller as the years went on. What started as small disagreements grew into constant tension. Riley often kept her distance from Todd, making it clear she didn't see him as a father figure. Todd, on the other hand, struggled with what he saw as disrespect and distance in his own home. For years, Kandi stood in the middle, trying to love her husband, trying to protect her daughter, and desperately trying to keep her family from falling apart. And this is where the real weight began to crush her. The drama inside the Burruss-Tucker household wasn't just about personality clashes. It was about loyalty, identity, and the pressure of trying to create unity in a blended family. The more Kandi tried to fix it, the more broken things seemed to become. But here's the twist: while fans often saw the happy photos, the smiling vacations, and the glamorous red carpet appearances, behind closed doors Kandi was fighting a losing battle. She confessed more than once that the stress of trying to keep the peace had begun to take a toll on her mental health. She admitted to feeling powerless, caught between two people she loved deeply, with no way to make both happy at the same time. Todd saw it too. He watched his wife wear herself thin, bending over backwards to cater to everyone's needs but her own. And while at first, he kept his frustrations to himself, there came a point when Todd could no longer hold back. He began to say what he had been holding inside for years, that Riley was at the center of Kandi's stress, and that her refusal to accept him was slowly destroying Kandi's peace of mind. These weren't just whispers. Todd directly expressed that Kandi's health issues were tied to the unending conflict with Riley. He didn't say it lightly. To him, this wasn't just about family drama, it was about survival. He believed Kandi was burning herself out trying to carry the emotional weight of a daughter who wouldn't compromise and a husband who was constantly on edge. For Kandi, hearing this was like a dagger to the heart. Because while Todd was pointing the finger at Riley, Kandi was still a mother first. Blaming her daughter wasn't something she could easily accept, no matter how much truth there might have been in Todd's words. But what nobody expected was how explosive this moment would become. Todd's frustration had been building for years. He had stayed quiet, respecting Kandi's position, not wanting to be the bad guy. But in his silence, resentment grew. When he finally spoke, he didn't sugarcoat it. He told Kandi flat out that Riley's constant resistance was the reason her stress levels were out of control. He said that if Riley truly cared about her mother's health, she would put her feelings aside and at least try to meet him halfway. That kind of statement hit harder than anyone could have imagined. To Todd, it was a plea for peace. To Riley, it was an attack. And to Kandi, it was the one thing she had always feared, being forced to choose between her husband and her daughter. The fallout was immediate. Riley, known for her outspoken personality, wasn't about to let Todd's words slide. She reminded him that she never asked for this family dynamic, never asked for a stepfather, and never wanted her relationship with her mom to be conditional on accepting him. To her, Todd's blame was unfair and cruel. Kandi, caught in the middle, broke down. She admitted that the stress was real, that her health was beginning to suffer, but she also begged Todd not to put that burden on Riley's shoulders. She didn't want her daughter carrying the guilt of her mother's struggles. But Todd wouldn't back down. He argued that avoiding the truth was exactly why things had gotten this bad in the first place. To him, holding Riley accountable wasn't about punishing her, it was about saving Kandi before it was too late. And that's when the cracks in their family became impossible to ignore. This wasn't just about arguments anymore. It was about Kandi's well-being. Her friends began to notice the change in her. She seemed more tired, more drained, and less like the strong, bubbly woman fans adored on screen. Her health scares became harder to dismiss. Some say she started losing focus on her businesses, while others whispered that she was emotionally checked out at times. For Kandi, the pressure of carrying both sides had finally started to show physically. Stress-related health problems are not uncommon, but in Kandi's case, it was the emotional tug-of-war inside her own home that was breaking her down. Todd's comments didn't just expose the issue, they magnified it. Fans began taking sides. Some agreed with Todd, saying Riley was old enough to put her feelings aside for her mother's sake. Others defended Riley, pointing out that children don't choose their parents' partners and shouldn't be blamed for the struggles of adults. Through it all, one thing was clear: Kandi was suffering, and the very people she loved most were the ones unintentionally tearing her apart. And so the question remains, where does this family go from here? Todd's words may have been harsh, but they came from a place of desperation. He doesn't want to lose his wife to stress and health issues she shouldn't have to carry. Riley, on the other hand, doesn't want to feel forced into a bond she isn't ready for. And Kandi? She's stuck in the middle, watching the two people she loves most pull her in opposite directions. The emotional impact of this conflict can't be overstated. For Kandi, every choice feels like betrayal. If she sides with Todd, she risks pushing her daughter further away. If she sides with Riley, her marriage faces cracks that might never heal. And in the meantime, her health, both mental and physical, continues to hang in the balance. It's a heartbreaking position, one that so many blended families can relate to. The desire for unity collides with the reality of pain, resentment, and unhealed wounds. And while fans watch from the outside, only Kandi, Todd, and Riley know the depth of the scars this situation has left. In the end, this isn't just a story about blame. It's a story about love, sacrifice, and the cost of trying to hold a family together. Todd may blame Riley, Riley may resent Todd, and Kandi may feel powerless, but beneath it all is a woman who has spent her life fighting for peace and stability. The question now is whether that fight is costing her more than it's worth. Because sometimes, love isn't about fixing everything. Sometimes, love is about knowing when to let go, when to protect your own health, and when to stop carrying the weight of everyone else's battles. For Kandi Burruss, that moment may be closer than anyone realizes. And as fans, all we can do is watch and wonder, will this family ever find peace, or will the blame, resentment, and heartache be the thing that finally breaks them apart? The truth is, when all the dust settles and the cameras turn off, what remains are the lives that were touched, the pain that was carried, and the lessons that must be remembered. This story wasn't just about scandal, betrayal, or headlines that kept people entertained for weeks. It was about real people, real families, and real consequences that can't be erased by money, fame, or even time. When we look back at everything that unfolded, we see a chain of choices that led here. Choices made in anger. Choices made in silence. Choices made to protect an image rather than protect a family. And when those choices stacked up, one on top of another, they created a storm that no one could control. For years, so much was hidden behind smiles, behind flashy lifestyles, behind the illusion of perfection. But behind closed doors, behind those carefully curated social media posts, there was heartbreak, there were tears, and there were secrets eating away at the very foundation of trust. What the world is seeing now is simply the explosion of what had been building for so long. And here's the part people don't like to admit: fame doesn't heal wounds. Fame doesn't erase mistakes. Fame doesn't keep people together when the foundation is already broken. If anything, fame makes the cracks wider because every move, every rumor, every betrayal is amplified for the world to see. But through the chaos, one thing became clear: truth will always find a way to surface. No matter how many times it gets buried, no matter how deeply it's hidden, truth has a way of climbing back up and demanding to be seen. That's what this entire journey has shown us. Families who were torn apart, relationships that shattered in the spotlight, people who had to face their darkest moments with the whole world watching. It's more than entertainment. It's a reminder of how fragile trust is, how quickly love can turn to resentment, and how silence can sometimes do more damage than words ever could. And yet, there's another layer to all this. Beyond the drama, beyond the public scandals, there's still humanity. There are children watching their parents struggle. There are friends caught in the middle. There are loved ones praying that somehow, healing will come from all this pain. When you think about it, what happened here isn't that different from what happens in everyday families. Maybe the details aren't splashed across gossip blogs, maybe millions of strangers aren't dissecting every move, but betrayal, heartbreak, silence, and pride destroy families every single day. That's why so many people connected so deeply to this story, because in some way, they saw a reflection of their own lives in it. So what's the lesson here? What can we take away from all of this chaos? First, it teaches us that silence is not always golden. Sometimes, silence protects the wrong people. Sometimes, silence allows pain to grow stronger. Sometimes, silence keeps wounds from healing. When the truth was finally spoken, it may have been messy, it may have been explosive, but it was also freeing. Because once the truth is out, the healing can finally begin. Second, it shows us the cost of pride. How many moments could have been different if pride hadn't taken over? If someone had simply said "I was wrong" or "I'm sorry." Pride is one of the most destructive forces in relationships because it keeps people locked in battles that nobody wins. In this story, pride turned into distance, distance turned into betrayal, and betrayal turned into a storm that destroyed almost everything in its path. And third, it's a reminder that healing is possible, but it takes honesty, it takes work, and it takes humility. Healing doesn't come through pretending. Healing doesn't come through hiding. Healing comes when people face the truth, even when it hurts, and choose to grow from it. As we close this chapter, we also have to look forward. Where do they go from here? What happens after the cameras stop rolling, after the gossip blogs find a new story, after the audience moves on to the next scandal? That's when the real work begins. That's when choices matter the most, not when the world is watching, but when nobody is. Because the truth is, this story doesn't end here. The healing process will take years. The rebuilding of trust, if it's even possible, will take more than public apologies or dramatic confrontations. It will take consistency. It will take forgiveness. It will take accountability. And maybe that's the greatest message of all. That no matter how broken something seems, no matter how deep the wounds are, there is always a chance, not a guarantee, but a chance for healing. But that chance only comes when people are brave enough to confront the truth. In the end, scandals fade. Headlines disappear. But what remains are the lessons. Lessons about love, pride, silence, and truth. Lessons that every single one of us can carry into our own lives. So, as we leave this story behind, let's remember one thing: people may fall, families may break, but there is always an opportunity to rise again. Sometimes it takes losing everything to realize what truly matters. Sometimes it takes public chaos to force private healing. And sometimes, the hardest endings create the most powerful new beginnings. This isn't just about them. It's about all of us. Because at the heart of it, we all want the same things: love, respect, honesty, and peace. And maybe, just maybe, seeing their story unfold reminds us to protect those things in our own lives before it's too late. And so, as the curtain closes on this chapter, we're left with a choice. Do we just watch, gossip, and move on? Or do we take the deeper lesson, the human truth buried inside all the drama, and let it change the way we love, the way we forgive, and the way we fight for the people who matter most? Because in the end, life isn't about perfection. It's about growth. It's about honesty. It's about facing the truth, no matter how painful it is, and choosing to move forward. That is the real ending to this story. Not the drama, not the betrayal, not even the headlines. The real ending is the possibility of healing, the chance for growth, and the reminder that no matter how broken things seem, it's never too late to start again.